Mere conservatism.
I think they actually know better.
You think so?
I think they know.
You think liberals know better?
Yeah, they know better than some of the lies that they spout about minorities acquiring voter ID and voter suppression and stuff like that. They know better than what they're saying.
I believe that some of them do, but I believe that a lot of them are true blue believers in that minorities are just so oppressed and so bad off that they can't possibly be able to think for themselves, help themselves, vote right. So,
well, they certainly see black people, especially as victims.
Yes, and they believe
I guess they genuinely think that. You know, I heard some polls read about folks' perception of how many black people are killed every year by the police.
Right. And
liberals way overestimate.
Yes.
when they have to guess about how many black people are killed by the police every year.
It's
crazy high. It's way too high.
Yeah.
So I guess they actually think that it is a war zone for black people, that they're being hunted, like LeBron James says.
Yep.
It's not true.
Not at all.
But they sincerely believe it, I guess.
There's some who do know better. There's some liberals who do know better. They just feel that narrative enables them to do things that they would not be able to do otherwise. But they know it's not true. But they're true blue believers. As a matter of fact, I think AOC is a true blue believer in the nonsense she spouts. I don't believe she's just saying it to say it. I think she believes it. And that's sad.
She's a little ditzy. She's
sad.
A little ditzy, I have to say. You're probably right. She probably does believe a lot of the things that she says.
David Perry over there. I'm Cleve Walker over here. And this edition of Mere Conservatism is going to be coming out at a time when some are going to be celebrating Mother's Day. And
Cleve,
so we want to say happy Mother's Day.
No, stop right there, Cleve.
Why?
Birthing Person's Day.
I
can't believe you. I'm literally shaking right now. Happy Birthing Person Day to all the birthing persons in my life.
The sad thing about it is so funny, but there are a lot of folks who believe that's a really good point.
Well, if you celebrate Mother's Day, all you're doing is affirming the patriarchy.
Yes.
And the subjugation of women.
Yeah. It's amazing. But I'm going to step out and just be bold and say Happy Mother's Day. And I think you say the same thing.
How dare you?
And by the way, you got 3 moms in your life, and I know that you're going to treat them right. Got any special plans?
Yes, we have some plans.
Good.
Yep. And I have a 6-year-old who really is into being involved.
Really?
In things like Mother's Day
okay.
and birthday and stuff like that. So the 2-year-old, not so much.
I guess not.
But the 6-year-old is pretty into it. So we're going to be making breakfast and all that stuff, and it's going to be good.
I'll tell you what, breakfast in bed is to me one of the best things that some moms can get. Just a little attention and pampering.
My wife, she has 3 children and she has me as well. She's the biggest
child of all.
she's gonna get to stay in bed for a while.
Good.
The funny thing though is with my 6-year-old, she's to the age now where I said to her, "Hey, do you want to sit down and let me help you make mommy a card, a Mother's Day card?" And she goes, "No, I got it." So I have no idea. What she's going to give my wife. As far as I know, she made something. I don't know.
I can hear her saying that. That is so cool. She's got a lot of you in her. By the way, this is not the topic of our Mere Conservatism broadcast, but again, Happy Mother's Day or Birth Mother's Day, whatever floats your boat. The National Day of Prayer has come and gone, and I always say this. I say it every year, whether it's a National Day of Prayer or whether it's for the See You at the Pole event. I always say it's needed now like never before.
Yeah.
So ask you this. What did you think when you heard, and I'm assuming you have heard, we hadn't talked in a bit, that the proclamation issued by the president concerning the National Day of Prayer, and there was one issue, there always is, made no mention of God whatsoever. Not even an implication throughout the entire thing, which I read from top to bottom. what's your takeaway? I'm just curious.
Well, I'm not surprised.
You really aren't? I was.
And it's look, that from Joe Biden would ring hollow, wouldn't it?
Well, yes, but
appeal to God.
But you would think that as a president, whether you mean it or not, you give a nod on the National Day of Prayer to those who actually believe in God. You just give a nod, whether you believe it or not.
Well, I believe, Cleve, that what Joe Biden did was a very religious thing.
Okay.
So he did mention his God.
Okay,
in many ways, in reference to climate change.
Oh, yes.
In reference to coronavirus prevention and all that stuff. The things that he mentioned, they are leftists' religious talking points.
They are. And it is a religion. That's a good point.
So it's very appropriate what he did for as far as he's concerned,
right,
because that's his religion. They pitch Biden as a devout Catholic. He's not a Catholic at all. I mean, he is diametrically opposed to the teaching of the Catholic Church. He's not a Catholic.
So is Pelosi.
And Pelosi is as well. So it actually is apropos that he would instead take the National Day of Prayer, which is a time where we should be appealing to heaven, appealing to the God of heaven.
To deity. Even some deity, to be quite honest with you.
Okay. And instead, he uses that as a religious exercise for the religion of the left, which is Gaia, I guess.
Yeah.
Praying
the
to
goddess
the
of nature.
earth and also government.
Which is the big God. Yes.
That's the big God because government in their minds is what's going to solve everything.
You make such a good point. That's why I didn't want you to hear this question before we started putting together this broadcast, because it literally is a religion. Progressivism, even Marxism, which denies our religion, it's a religious, fanatical religion. And the only thing about it, the reason I was surprised, David, is not because I expected Biden to say anything that would acknowledge God. I mean, Trump even went so far as to say the Lord Jesus Christ, but that's another subject. But I thought just he would still give a nod to the religious audience that he knows the National Day of Prayer is most concerning of, those who believe in freedom of religion. That's really our celebration for that.
Yeah. Well, he didn't even pull an Eric Swalwell and say God herself.
Right. So what that tells me is this. They, meaning the other side of the culture war, no longer even feel the need to feign any kind of real conviction in that direction. They used to feel the need to pretend, or at least they had some kind of back feeling for it, but they don't even have to do that anymore.
They a long time ago they started totally discounting prayer as they literally call it nothing.
Right.
The thoughts and prayers attacks that they say they have literally started completely.
You would have thought, though, the great unifier, President Biden, would certainly, again, whether he believed it or not, would just, in a desire to unify, would have just given something for the religious to hold on to, but it was nothing. Anyway, I thought that was interesting. Of course, we still need to pray. It's not just one day that this nation really needs to pray, but I just thought, again, it was very indicative of where we stand with this group, that they could totally leave out God, a mention of God, even a reference to him as far as the National Day of Prayer is concerned. Now, the Biden administration finally sending a top representative to the U.S.-Mexico border region on this past Friday, but it's not Vice President Kamala Harris. No. It's Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. He's going to visit a migrant processing facility in Donna, Texas. That's also instructive. What do you take? Again, this is like 40-something days since she was appointed as the one to handle the border crisis, that she hasn't had a press conference and she hasn't even gone down there. So what is your takeaway from that?
It's a hot potato. Nobody wants to touch it.
And if she goes, unfortunately, she carries with her a bunch of cameras, much more cameras than
she draws attention to it. So what they want is for it to fade away and to not be an issue.
And the media's helping.
It's going to continue to go along. Of course they are. Yeah, they're going to help with that. And they cannot draw attention to it. I've heard her say some things about the border crisis, and it's silly.
Well, it's causing it. One of the major causes of the border crisis, in her estimation,
global warming.
Yeah, climate change.
Yeah. Of course.
the big boogeyman in everything that the progressives do is climate change. And so now, and there's nothing you can do about that in an immediate way, even by their reckoning. But that's what we got to address rather than the actual what's going on right now. Now, you heard about what they did with the when they brought some cameras finally to the holding pens, the facility for the kids. It showed an empty facility.
Oh.
You didn't see that?
No,
Oh,
I
okay.
didn't.
Oh, yeah, they did. They finally showed it. But we come to find out, and thanks to Fox and other news outlets, that they had taken the migrants and the children and all the crowded people and moved them to another facility 100 yards away that they did not take the cameras to.
Yeah.
So literally, they tried to create a narrative. See, we're making progress. That notorious scene with all the kids and the cramping and the blankets, the covers on them, that's not happening anymore. But they just moved them to another facility that they didn't take the camera.
Yeah, they're playing games with it.
It's astounding, though. And again, the media lets them get away with it.
I mean, what can you say? The media is they're useless. Well, I take that back. They're not useless if you're on the left.
Right.
They're
right.
very useful, but they are part of they're part of the left. They're
right.
a big part of it.
Right.
And they have taken over our country in a sense.
No,
I think
literally they have. Yes.
They are in charge of dispensing information. They're the propaganda wing, and we don't really have an independent press, really. No. Because we don't have people that are interested in the truth. We have people that are interested in a result.
Right.
They are activists, and they believe that their job is to make the world a better place, not to tell stories about what's going on in the world and tell the truth and hold officials accountable and things like that. No. Their job is to advocate, to right wrongs, to make the world a better place. And they're going to do that in the way that they see fit. And if that requires turning the other way when it comes to a crisis at the border and people being abused and people being human trafficked over the border,
which pick up big time, yes,
then they will do it.
Yeah.
Because they don't care about. They really don't care about anything except the final result, which is lots and lots of government control and the utopia that they foresee.
It was bad enough, and you make a good point, David, but it was bad enough when they did just what you're saying, which basically is making sure that no real news is disseminated, no real truth is disseminated. They've taken it a step further now to actually also make sure that if any truth is being disseminated, if a true source does come up, that source is attacked, marginalized, or canceled.
Well, yeah, you see that with one of the best examples, one of the first things that comes to mind is the New York Post story about Hunter Biden.
Yes.
So as soon as that hit, it was an immediate social media blackout.
Right.
All the social media companies conspired, grouped together to block that story, so very few people would ever see it. And the big media, CNN, New York Times, WAPO, totally silent about it.
Totally.
It's like it didn't exist.
And they still are.
And they certainly worked together in order to do that. Cleve, that does not make us more free. That makes us substantially less free. That actually steals our liberty.
Sure.
That is a very real threat to our country. That is. And a lot of people had an issue with Trump referring to the media as an enemy of the people.
Yeah. Turns out he was
maybe you don't like that terminology, but they're certainly not our friends.
It turns out he was 100% right.
And people like you and I who are interested in liberty, the ideals of our country, being personal freedom, this is extremely dangerous. This is a huge deal that these companies are working together. They're basically doing the bidding of the government. And Cleve, if the government tried to do the stuff that the big media companies are doing, they would get struck down by the Supreme Court. They couldn't do it because of the Constitution. The Constitution wouldn't allow the government to do it. So what are they doing? The left is getting together these big corporations, and they're saying, you do it for us because, hey, they're a private company.
Right.
So you do it for us.
Right.
This is so dangerous, and it's such a big problem. And in the past several months, really the last probably 3 months or so, I've come to the realization that a laissez-faire libertarian attitude towards these companies is just not viable.
Now, that amazes me to hear you saying this, because this, to me, marks a little bit of a
shift.
Yeah, a shift from because you're basically, and I am too, to a certain extent, kind of hands off when it comes to the government, telling people or businesses what they should do, or at least leave them alone to to do their own thing. And now you seem to be saying that dog won't hunt anymore.
Well, because we need to realize, look, our liberty is at stake.
Yes,
and that's an important
Agreed.
word. Now, liberty ain't easy, as I often say. One of my many catchphrases, liberty ain't easy. It's not easy, but it's very important.
Yeah.
And we need to be, as a country, both culturally and also politically, using our government, we need to advance those things.
Right.
And so while each of us believe in a small government, and I really do think that that's very important, what you're seeing right now is a big government colluding with business to form a ruling class that is stealing our liberty.
Corporations, media, and the government. It's like a trio, basically, of stealing liberty. And the reason this is important is because I tell my friends, and I tell those who are on our side of the culture war, this is why you can't believe anything that comes as a credible source from the media. Even how you can't even believe the state of affairs that they describe, okay? Because they're always going to present it in a way that most favors them, even if that's not the case. Now, right now, they're trying to destroy a lot of the voter laws that are being put up by several states. And I'm loving this, that the Republicans are finally saying they've got to clean up this voting situation. And the media is coming down heavy, of course, Jim Crow, minority oppression and everything. And they're making it feel like, this is what it is. And a lot of people on our side are just kind of saying, my goodness, how can you fight that? I mean, it's like that we're now on the wrong side of the civil rights war, so to speak. So I just bring it up to say, listen, don't listen to the media. They can't tell the truth. They won't tell the truth. And don't listen to their portrayal of what the reality of things really are.
Not only don't listen to them, but we need to find ways to lash out.
You can't stay silent about it. That's what I'm saying.
I shouldn't say lash out,
because they're going to.
I'm inciting a riot.
Insurrection,
here.
David.
Exactly.
Hey, this might be the last podcast.
What I'm saying is, don't take it laying down. Because here's the thing: you can't just mind your business. And we've said this before. We say it a lot. You can't just stay out of it, because it's not going to stay out of your business.
Thank you.
Okay, this movement is not going to leave you alone. Evil, you can refrain from evil and be basically apathetic and try to keep to yourself, but evil will come for you.
Yes,
that's why you cannot just let it fester.
Even if it gives you a pass temporarily, okay, because you are being quiet and not being contentious, that is only a temporary state of affairs. They will come for you.
Yes.
They will, and I say this especially to our friends in the American church. All right, you cooperating with these guys or trying to in some way satisfy their weird demands will not stop them from finally coming after you.
Even if you say, you know what, we're just going to focus on serving others and doing the right thing.
Surely they can't be bothered by that. That's what
we got to have some warriors.
Yeah.
We got to have some.
It's time.
And you might have to come up with some creative ways to do that, because you might work in a business or something like that where you do have to be careful about exactly what you say and how you say it. And I'm not trying to get anybody fired by telling them to stand up and speak out or be rude or anything like that. But you have to have somewhat of a spine here and do something. And everybody can do something. Even if it's just sharing President Trump's blog on your Facebook page.
Right.
And look, I'm not like a Trump follower, so to speak. One thing I wanted to talk to you about today is something that Meghan McCain said in relation to Liz Cheney. And Republican leadership. And this is what I want to say about that. Liz Cheney is in the House. She's from Wyoming.
Yeah, for a while.
She has very publicly been against Trump and talking about how, and she refers to his big lie. Talking about how he refers to the integrity of the 2020 election. She refers to that as the big lie. Right now, she's in a little bit of hot water with the Republicans.
Finally.
Because some of them have decided that she is not really representing our best interests. Her guns are trained on Trump for some reason. Trump isn't president. And we have some issues that probably she should be focusing on. So she's getting in trouble. Meghan McCain went on The View, and Meghan McCain did a monologue about how she feels bad that people like her and people like Liz Cheney apparently are not welcome in the Republican Party. And she says people that won't bend the knee to Trump are not welcome. And I have a lot of... So this is what I want to say about that. Cleve, you and I don't bend the knee to Trump.
No.
We've never done that. We've always been very honest about him when he does things that are wrong or stupid, says things that he shouldn't say. We've also been honest when he does great things.
Right.
And he's done a lot of great things. And he's done a lot of the other things, too. We've always been very honest with it. Meghan McCain, not her, but... It feels really bad coming from her because her father was a guy who never accepted people like me in the Republican Party.
You're right. He slapped the Tea Party down every chance he got.
And I was the one on this program saying, you know what? We need Republicans like John McCain. That's fine. We want Republicans like him. We need Republicans like him. But he wouldn't say that about me.
No. He said the very opposite.
He said the very opposite of that. So Meghan McCain coming out and saying, oh, yeah, people who won't bend the knee to Trump, we don't have a place in the Republican Party. You need to be quiet, okay? Because your wing of the party, which is really just Democrats that like the military, is basically what her dad was.
Sure.
And I assume that she's in that similar camp. You have had an issue welcoming people in the party. The real conservatives in the party, people like me, have been walked all over by people like...
Persona non grata.
By people like her, people like her father, people like Liz Cheney, because we always play the team game, okay? All right, we nominated John McCain. Let's vote for him and let's support him, even though John McCain isn't my guy because he's not conservative enough. Oh, okay, well, they nominated Mitt Romney, so let's go with Mitt Romney. Let's play ball because the centrist Republicans, quote unquote, they nominated this guy, so now we got to beat the Democrat or whatever. But we play ball with them. Yeah. They don't want to do that.
No, and they showed that.
John McCain calls us hobbits.
Nothing but disdain, nothing but insults. And so you're 100% right. They hate Trump, but they also hate us. Whether Trump or not, they've shown disdain. Before Trump came, they felt the way about us that you're describing.
So I would say, Meghan McCain, Liz Cheney, get on board or get off. Well, because one thing that Trump did is he changed the way the Republican Party was focused. He actually, for all his flaws, and there are many, and I disagree with a lot of his ideas and big government and all that stuff. It wasn't perfect. However, he did advance actual conservative ideas, things that we have wanted for a long time, that we've wanted to get from John McCain and never did, and wanted to get from Mitch McConnell in the Senate and never did, wanted to get from these people, and they don't do what we elect them to do. Donald Trump actually did.
And they're also the reason we lost national elections. We could not win presidencies with these guys. And there's this. You heard it here first, David. Liz Cheney, she is planning to run for president. She and her
as a Republican?
As a Republican. She and her ilk, like Mitt Romney, feel that they are redeeming the Republican Party. And she's setting herself up as to be the nominee for a woman who is an anti-Trumper, and therefore she feels that would make her immune to the attacks from the media.
Well, I don't think she's going to do too well.
No. Well, neither did McCain, who was loved by the media until he ran for the Republican presidency. Real quick, this last story just dovetails something you just said. Utah mothers Monica Wilbur and Angie Van expressed outrage over mask mandates for their kids at school. Police in Utah now are reportedly investigating possible criminal charges against a group of anti-mask protesters who sparked an early end to a school board meeting this past week. They interrupted speakers and they chanted, "No more masks." the scenes were captured on video, which I saw. It was wonderful, David, what I saw. Because now...
all that crime and violence is wonderful.
So now elsewhere, by the way, in Utah, the state coronavirus restriction and the mask mandates have been lifted, just not in that school district. Okay. So these moms were just saying enough is enough, especially when they were getting ready to close that meeting without any more public comment. They had let the state legislator speak, and that was it. We're closing. So this is what you're talking about. They're saying, no, we will not be silent. We're not going to be cowed. We're not going to be intimidated. We are going to speak out. And I say high time.
And I don't know exactly what they did.
They just shouted. They just shouted and said, we'll be heard. We came here to be heard. And our main concern right now are these mask mandates, which feel unfair, unscientific, and we have no say in it, even though the state itself has dropped the mask mandates. So that's what they did. They were a true citizens group, not a mob, not burning, not throwing things at anybody, but saying, you're not going to cow us. We pay your salary. We are here, and we're going to speak our mind. That's what they did.
Well, and good. You got to petition.
Yeah, at some point you got to say something.
You got to do something. Yeah. And you got in some cases you might have to get creative, like I mentioned. Some cases you might have to put your foot down. But we have got to stand up for our rights and what is right.
Yeah.
And what makes sense.
Particularly in the schools is why I'm bringing it up, though. Parents, if these are your kids, and they are because you're the parents, you have a responsibility to stand up. To me, not standing up or speaking out is not an option.
You're right. And, I have, there are lines and that you cannot cross. And my kids is one of them.
There ought to be lines.
And I think, and I think that for many people that is the case. The masks are... it's way past time.
Mm-hmm. Parents are speaking about critical race theory being taught in their schools. Race
theory is awful.
They're standing up to.
That's worse than the masks, if you ask me. But it's that's another bad thing that needs to be. That is one of those things that steals liberty.
Yeah. And it happens when you shut up. It happens when you cooperate with them telling you don't say anything. And so we got to speak out. We've got to be bold. And David, you make a great point of that. Now, we are attending the broadcast. How can they hear this again if they so desire?
Make sure you check it out on Facebook, on YouTube, and, of course, on Apple Podcasts. Make sure you rate us and leave us a review, too.
Again, a happy Mother's Day as we stand up for our family, our kids, for our nation. We'll see you. Have a wonderful day. David Perry and I'm Cleve Walker for Mere Conservatism.